Thy will be done. Teaching the Talmidi Israelite faith through the words of the Our Father by Shmuel ben Naftali. Please visit our website at www.talmidi.co.il. Continuing Chapter 2, the Ancient Community of the Way and the Talmidi Israelite View of the Second Temple Period. Section 9. Signs of the Times, the Troubles in the Holy Land. Now, during the period of the Prophet Yeshua's ministry, the Jewish people were suffering terribly under the cruel oppression of the Romans. It is vitally important for us to understand the problems going on during this time, because much of what Yeshua said was against the backdrop of these contemporary troubles. Most modern Christians are not aware of the terrible burdens endured by Yeshua's fellow Jews, and think that generally the Romans were jolly nice people, when in reality their behavior was no better than the Nazis of the 20th century. Most of that generation of the first century were decent people. The wrongdoing of the few had caused problems for the innocent majority. For example, Pontius Pilate seemed to enjoy offending Jewish religious sensibilities, and the Jewish historian Josephus reports that the later Roman governors, such as Albinus and Florus, were so cruel in their administration of Jewish affairs that matters were inevitably bound to come to a violent head. There was, in addition, intercommunal strife between Samaritans and Jews. Crime and banditry was on the increase. The authorities burdened the people with heavy taxes that many could not afford to pay, and the poor groaned under the increasing mountains of debt that they had no hope of escaping from. Now, most people have heard of the Essenes. Most people know that they took themselves off into the Judean desert to live apart from mainstream Jewish society. What most people don't know is why they did this. Their reasoning is important to know and understand, because it will inform our understanding of subsequent events, especially the world in which Yeshua lived. The main reason they retreated into a desert community was because they felt the priests who served in the Jerusalem temple had become corrupt, that they were not behaving in a holy manner expected of them as priests. The Essenes believed that the corruption of the priesthood, especially the Sadducean priesthood, had desecrated the holiness of the temple, and they felt in all conscience that they therefore could not worship there or offer sacrifices there. For them, the Shekhinah of God, the active indwelling presence of God, was no longer present in the sanctuary of the temple. In the Israelite way of thinking, desecration of the temple was the same as the desecration of the reputation of God's holiness. One day there would come a terrible reckoning for this desecration, and those who were guilty would be brought to account. You see, the Jewish priests were supposed to be visible representatives of God on earth. They, more than anyone else, had a huge responsibility to behave in a righteous and holy manner. If a man of God acted in a cruel, unjust, or immoral fashion, he would be defaming the holy reputation of God. According to the Israelite way of thinking, this was a sin that could never be forgiven in this life. For example, the sons of the high priest Eli, or Eli in English pronunciation, who were themselves priests by descent, were corrupt and treated people unfairly. Their actions defamed the holy reputation of God, so according to the writer of the book of Samuel, they suffered the ultimate punishment, death. This view, that of the consequences of defaming God's reputation, fixed in ordinary people's minds the belief that one day the Sadducean priests would be punished severely by God for their corruption, for their acts of injustice, and for their immoral behavior. According to the Talmidi interpretation of certain parables of Yeshua, he indeed prophesied the demise of the Sadducean party in a day of judgment when God would come to deal out his divine justice. Please see the links to the next video and my previous videos in the description below. If you have a genuine interest in Talmidaism, you can join our discussion group by sending a blank email with subscribe in the title to talmidi-subscribe@yahoogroups.com. If you have a genuine inquiry and want to know more about Talmidaism, please email thywillbedone.talmidi@gmail.com.